I've been sleeping with your best friend. Asher's words cut through me like a knife, shattering the illusion of our perfect life together. I stare at him, my heart pounding in my chest as the weight of his confession settles over me. 5 years of marriage, countless memories, and a friendship I cherished above all else, all tainted by this single moment of betrayal. Natalie, my closest confidant, the person I trusted with my deepest secrets, had been lying to me for God knows how long. Asher's face is a mask of cold indifference as he watches me process his words. I want a divorce, Evelyn. It's over. Anger, hot and fierce, surges through my veins. How could you do this to me? To us? We had a life together, Asher. We had plans, dreams. He scoffs, shaking his head. Plans, dreams. You've been so focused on your career, Evelyn, that you've forgotten what it means to be a wife. I needed more than a roommate who occasionally shares my bed. His words sting, but I refuse to let him see how deeply they cut. And Natalie? How long has this been going on behind my back? Asher has the decency to look away, a flicker of shame crossing his features. A year. It started as a friendship, but it grew into something more. Something real. I laugh, a harsh, bitter sound that echoes in the stillness of our living room. Real? You call sneaking around, lying to your wife, and betraying your vows real? What about our marriage, Asher? Was that not real enough for you? He sighs, running a hand through his hair. I didn't plan for this to happen, Evelyn. But Natalie, she understands me in a way you never could. She supports my dreams, my ambitions. She doesn't make me feel guilty for wanting more out of life. And that's worth throwing away everything we've built together? Our home, our future? I can feel the hot sting of tears behind my eyes, but I blink them back, refusing to let him see me crumble. Asher looks at me, his expression a mix of pity and resignation. I'm sorry, Evelyn, but I can't live a lie anymore. I want a divorce, and I'm going to start a new life with Natalie. The finality in his words hits me like a physical blow. In an instant, my world has been turned upside down. Everything I thought I knew, revealed as nothing more than a carefully constructed facade. As Asher turns to leave, I call out, my voice trembling with barely contained rage. This isn't over, Asher. I won't let you walk away from our marriage without a fight. You and Natalie will pay for what you've done. He pauses, his hand on the doorknob, and looks back at me. Do what you need to do, Evelyn. But it won't change the fact that I've made my choice. I'm sorry it had to end this way. With that, he's gone, the door closing behind him with a soft click. I sink to the floor, my legs no longer able to support me, as the tears I've been holding back finally break free. In the silence of our once shared home, I make a vow to myself. I will uncover the truth behind their betrayal, and I will make them regret the day they chose to deceive me. I confront Asher, my anger simmering just beneath the surface. You blame me for your infidelity? How dare you, Asher? We both had demanding careers, but I never once considered betraying our vows. Asher's eyes narrow, his voice dripping with condescension. You were always too busy, Evelyn, too focused on your own success to notice that our marriage was crumbling. Natalie was there for me when you weren't. I supported your career, your ambitions. We made decisions together, Asher. We agreed to wait on starting a family until we were both ready. My voice rises, frustration and hurt bleeding into every word. A cruel smile plays on Asher's lips. Well, I'm ready now. Natalie's pregnant, and I'm going to marry her. We're going to have the family I always wanted, the family you were too selfish to give me. His words hit me like a punch to the gut, stealing the air from my lungs. Pregnant? You got her pregnant while we were still married? How could you be so reckless, so irresponsible? Asher shrugs, his indifference a sharp contrast to the turmoil raging inside me. It happened, Evelyn, and I'm not going to apologize for it. Natalie and I are building a future together, and I won't let you stand in our way. I clench my fists, my nails digging into my palms. You're a liar and a cheat, Asher. You've betrayed me in the worst possible way. And for what? A woman who was willing to sleep with her best friend's husband? What kind of future can you possibly hope to build on a foundation of deceit? He steps closer, his eyes cold and unfeeling. The kind of future I deserve, Evelyn. One where I'm not constantly being held back by a wife who can't see beyond her own ambitions. Natalie understands me, supports me in ways you never could. And you think that justifies your actions? You think that gives you the right to destroy our marriage, to shatter the trust I placed in you? My voice cracks, the weight of his betrayal threatening to crush me. Asher's face hardens, his words laced with venom. I'm done living a lie, Evelyn. I'm done pretending to be happy in a marriage that's been dead for years. You can have your divorce, but don't expect me to go down without a fight. I'll make sure you regret ever trying to stand in the way of my happiness. Happiness? I laugh, a bitter, broken sound. You think you'll find happiness with a woman who betrays her best friend? You're delusional, Asher, and I promise you this. I will uncover every lie, every secret, every dirty little detail of your affair. I'll make sure the world sees you for the monster you really are. He smirks, unfazed by my threats. Do your worst, Evelyn. But remember, I'm not the only one with secrets. You're not as perfect as you'd like everyone to believe. With that, he turns and walks away, leaving me standing alone in the ruins of our once happy life. I watch him go, my heart hardening with each step he takes. I will not let him win. I will not let him destroy me. I will fight back with every ounce of strength I possess, and I will make sure he pays for his betrayal. As I stand there, the pieces of my shattered world littering the ground at my feet, I make a silent vow to myself. I will uncover the truth, no matter the cost. I will expose Asher and Natalie for the liars they are, and I will rebuild my life on my own terms. The price of their deception will be high, and I will make sure they pay it in full. I sit across from the private investigator, his face a mask of professional detachment, as he slides a manila envelope across the table. This is what I've managed to uncover so far, Mrs. Callahan. It seems your husband has been quite generous with his mistress. I open the envelope with trembling hands, my eyes widening as I flip through the photographs and financial statements. Asher, my loving husband, had been funneling money into Natalie's bank account for months, paying for her rent, her art supplies, her lavish lifestyle. How long has this been going on? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. The investigator leans back in his chair, his eyes filled with a mixture of pity and understanding. From what I can tell, the payment started about 6 months ago, right around the time your husband started spending more late nights at the office. I nod, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place. Asher's sudden distance, his increasingly cold demeanor, all signs I had foolishly ignored in my desire to believe in the sanctity of our marriage. Thank you, I say, sliding the envelope back across the table. I appreciate your discretion in this matter. He nods, rising from his seat. Of course, Mrs. Callahan. If there's anything else I can do to assist you, please don't hesitate to call. I leave the investigator's office, my mind reeling with the evidence of Asher's betrayal. But I know confronting him directly will only lead to more lies, more denials. No, I need to go straight to the source. I need to speak with Natalie. I find her at her studio, her once vibrant paintings now twisted and dark, reflecting the turmoil of her own guilty conscience. She looks up as I enter, her eyes widening in surprise and fear. "Evelyn, what are you doing here?" she asks, her voice trembling. I hold up the envelope, my eyes hard and unforgiving. "I know about the money, Natalie. I know Asher's been supporting you, paying for your life while he was still married to me." She pales, her hands twisting nervously in front of her. I can't explain, Evelyn. It's not what you think." "Really?" I laugh, a harsh, bitter sound, because it looks like my husband has been having an affair with my best friend, all while lying to my face and pretending to be the perfect devoted spouse. Natalie's eyes fill with tears, her voice breaking as she speaks. "He promised me, Evelyn. He said he was going to leave you, that we were going to start a life together. He said he loved me." I shake my head, my heart hardening with each word she speaks. "And you believed him? You thought he would actually leave his wife, his successful career, for a struggling artist who can't even support herself?" She flinches at my words, her shoulders sagging in defeat. "I know it was wrong, Evelyn. I never meant to hurt you. But Asher, he made me feel special, wanted. He said he needed me in ways you could never understand." "Needed you?" I scoff, my anger rising with each passing moment. "He needed a mistress, Natalie, someone to stroke his ego and make him feel like a man. But he never intended to leave me. He never intended to start a family with you." Her eyes widen, her hand instinctively going to her stomach. "But the baby," He said he wanted this child, that we were going to be a family. I laugh, a sound devoid of any humor. Asher doesn't want children, Natalie. He made that clear to me from the start. He only wants what he can't have, and once he gets it, he loses interest. You're nothing more than a conquest to him, a way to prove his own virility. She crumples then, her sobs echoing off the walls of the studio. I watch her, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction in her pain. She brought this upon herself, and now she must face the consequences. I hope it was worth it, Natalie, I say, my voice cold and unfeeling. I hope the price of your betrayal was worth the momentary thrill of being Asher's mistress. Because now, you'll have to live with the knowledge that you destroyed our friendship, our trust, for a man who never truly loved you. With that, I turn and walk away, leaving her to drown in her own tears and regrets. I have the evidence I need, the proof of Asher's lies and deceit, and I will use it to make sure he pays for every moment of pain he has caused me. I step into the sleek, modern office of Liam Hastings, the renowned divorce attorney known for his ruthless tactics and unparalleled success rate. He rises from behind his desk, his hand outstretched in greeting. "Mrs. Callahan, a pleasure to meet you," he says, his voice smooth and confident. "I've heard great things about your work as a lawyer. It's a shame we're meeting under such unfortunate circumstances." I take his hand, my grip firm and unyielding. "Please, call me Evelyn, and thank you for agreeing to take on my case. I need someone who isn't afraid to play hardball." Liam smiles, a glint of something dangerous in his eyes. "I assure you, Evelyn, I'm not in the business of playing nice. When my clients come to me, they expect results, and I deliver." We sit and I slide the manila envelope across his desk. This is what my private investigator uncovered. Proof of my husband's infidelity and financial support of his mistress. Liam flips through the documents, his brow furrowed in concentration. "This is good, Evelyn. Very good. With this evidence, we can paint a picture of a man who not only betrayed his marriage vows, but also his financial responsibilities." I nod, my heart racing with the thrill of impending revenge. "There's more. I've uncovered evidence that Asher has been embezzling funds from our joint accounts, funneling the money into Natalie's bank account." Liam's eyes widen, a slow smile spreading across his face. "Embezzlement? Oh, this is going to be fun. We'll nail him to the wall, Evelyn. He won't know what hit him." We spend the next few hours poring over the evidence, strategizing our next moves. Liam is brilliant, his mind working in ways I never could have imagined. He sees angles I never considered, finds loopholes and technicalities that will work in our favor. As we work, I find myself drawn to him, to his intensity and his passion for justice. He understands the pain of betrayal, the anger that comes with being wronged by someone you trusted, and in that understanding I find a kindred spirit. "You know, Evelyn," he says, leaning back in his chair, "I've seen a lot of cases like yours over the years. Spouses who cheat, who lie, who think they can get away with anything. But you're different. You're a fighter. You're not going to let him win." I smile, feeling a warmth spread through my chest at his words. Damn right, I'm not. Asher thinks he can just walk away, start a new life with his mistress, and leave me to pick up the pieces. But he has no idea what's coming for him. Liam reaches across the desk, his hand covering mine. "We'll make him pay, Evelyn. Together. He'll regret the day he ever thought he could betray you and get away with it." I look into his eyes, seeing the fire and determination that mirrors my own. In that moment, I know I've found more than just a lawyer. I've found a partner, someone who will stand by my side and fight for what's right. "Let's do this," I say, my voice steady and strong. "Let's take him down." Liam grins, a wicked gleam in his eye. "With pleasure, Evelyn, with pleasure." As we continue to work, the hours ticking by in a blur of strategy and planning, I feel a sense of power coursing through my veins. Asher thought he could break me, thought he could shatter my world and leave me helpless. But he underestimated me. He underestimated the depths of my rage, the strength of my resolve. And now, with Liam by my side, I will make him pay for every lie, every betrayal, every moment of pain he has inflicted upon me. The price of his deception will be high, and I will collect every penny. I stand before Asher, my eyes blazing with the fury of 1,000 suns. In my hands, I clutch the evidence of his deceit. It's the proof of his betrayal. He looks at me, his face a mask of arrogance and disdain. "What do you want, Evelyn?" he sneers, his voice dripping with contempt. "I thought I made myself clear. We're done. I'm starting a new life with Natalie." I laugh, a cold, mirthless sound that echoes through the room. "Oh, you're done, all right, Asher, but not in the way you think." I toss the papers onto the table between us, watching as his eyes widen in recognition. "You thought you could hide your lies, your embezzlement, your sordid little affair, but you were wrong. I have proof of everything, Asher, every penny you stole, every promise you broke." He reaches for the papers, his hands trembling. This is nonsense, Evelyn. You can't prove anything." "Can't I?" I smirk, reveling in his discomfort. "I have bank statements, credit card receipts, emails, and text messages. I have a private investigator who has been tracking your every move, and I have a team of lawyers who are ready to take you down." Asher's face pales, his bravado crumbling before my eyes. "What do you want, Evelyn? Money? The house? I'll give you whatever you want, just don't do this." I lean forward, my eyes locked on his. "What I want, Asher, is justice. I want you to pay for what you've done, for the pain you've caused. I want you to suffer, just like I have suffered." He shakes his head, his voice desperate. "Please, Evelyn, think about what you're doing. Think about our marriage, our life together." "Our marriage?" I scoff, my anger rising with each passing second. "You destroyed our marriage the moment you decided to stick your dick in my best friend. You threw away our life together the moment you chose her over me." Asher's eyes narrow, his voice growing cold. "You're making a mistake, Evelyn. If you go through with this, I'll make sure you regret it. I'll drag your name through the mud. I'll make sure everyone knows what a vindictive bitch you really are." I laugh, a sound full of bitter triumph. "Go ahead, Asher. Do your worst. But know this, I have the truth on my side. I have the evidence of your lies and your betrayal. And I will use it to destroy you, just like you destroyed me." He stares at me, his eyes full of hatred and fear. "You'll never win, Evelyn. I'll fight you every step of the way." I smile, a cold, cruel twist of my lips. "Bring it on, Asher. I'm ready for war." With that, I turn and walk away, my head held high. I feel a sense of power coursing through my veins, a sense of purpose that I haven't felt in years. Asher thought he could break me, thought he could shatter my world and leave me helpless. But he was wrong. I am stronger than he ever imagined, and I will not rest until he has paid for his crimes. I will not rest until he has felt the full of my vengeance. As I step out into the bright sunlight, I feel a sense of hope blooming in my chest. I have a long road ahead of me, a battle that will test me in ways I never imagined. But I am ready. I am ready to fight, to claw my way back from the brink of despair and emerge victorious. Asher and Natalie may have started this war, but I will be the one to finish it. And when the dust settles, they will know the true price of their deception. The shrill ring of my phone pierces the silence of my apartment. I glance at the screen, my heart skipping a beat as I see Natalie's name flashing across the display. I hesitate for a moment, wondering what fresh hell she has in store for me, before answering with a curt, "What do you want?" "Evelyn, please," she sobs, her voice thick with tears. "I need your help. The baby, she's not Asher's." I feel a rush of vindictive pleasure at her words, a sense of poetic justice that leaves me breathless. Well, I purr, my voice dripping with malice. "It seems the tables have turned, haven't they, Natalie?" She's quiet for a moment, her sniffles the only sound on the line. "I know I don't deserve your help, Evelyn. I know what I did was unforgivable, but please, I have nowhere else to turn. Asher, he abandoned us. He said he wants nothing to do with me or the baby." I lean back in my chair, a slow smile spreading across my face. "And why should I help you, Natalie? After everything you've done, after all the pain you've caused, why should I lift a finger to help you?" "Because I have information," she whispers, her voice trembling. "Information that could help you destroy Asher. I'll tell you everything, Evelyn, every dirty secret, every lie he's ever told. Just please, help me. Help my baby." I'm silent for a long moment, weighing my options. On the one hand, the thought of helping Natalie, of showing her even an ounce of mercy, makes my stomach churn with disgust. But on the other hand, the promise of more ammunition against Asher, of more weapons to use in my war against him, is too tempting to resist. "Fine," I say, my voice cold and hard. "I'll help you. Natalie, but not for you, for your child, and in exchange you'll give me everything you have on Asher, every last scrap of dirt, every skeleton in his closet. Do we have a deal? She's quiet for a moment, her breathing ragged. Yes, she whispers, her voice barely audible. We have a deal. I hang up the phone, my mind racing with the possibilities. With Natalie's testimony, with the evidence she can provide, I can bring Asher to his knees. I can make him pay for every moment of pain he's caused, every lie he's ever told. But first, I need to make sure Natalie holds up her end of the bargain. I need to make sure she's truly on my side, that she's not just using me for her own gain. I pick up the phone again, dialing Liam's number. He answers on the first ring, his voice warm and comforting. Evelyn, what's up? Natalie called, I say, my voice steady and strong. She wants my help. Says the baby isn't Asher's and he's abandoned them. Liam is quiet for a moment, his mind working through the implications. This could be big, Evelyn. If Natalie's telling the truth, if she has evidence against Asher, it could be the final nail in his coffin. I know, I say, my heart racing with the thrill of impending victory. But I need to make sure she's not playing me. I need to make sure she's truly on our side. Leave that to me, Liam says, his voice full of confidence. I'll dig into her background, make sure she's not hiding anything, and if she is, we'll use it against her. We'll make sure she has no choice but to cooperate. I smile, feeling a rush of gratitude for Liam's unwavering support. Thank you, Liam. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'll never have to find out, he says, his voice soft and tender. I'm here for you, Evelyn, always. As I hang up the phone, I feel a sense of hope blooming in my chest. With Natalie's testimony, with Liam by my side, I can finally bring Asher to justice. I can finally make him pay for every moment of pain he's caused. And when the dust settles, when the war is won, I will emerge victorious. I will emerge stronger, wiser, and more powerful than ever before. Liam and I sit side by side, poring over the evidence we've gathered against Asher. Bank statements, phone records, emails, and texts, all painting a picture of a man consumed by his own greed and selfishness. This is good, Evelyn, Liam says, his eyes sparkling with excitement. With Natalie's testimony and the evidence we've uncovered, we can bring Asher down. We can expose him for the fraud he really is. I nod, my heart racing with the thrill of impending victory. I want to see him suffer, Liam. I want to see him lose everything, just like he made me lose everything. Liam takes my hand, his touch warm and comforting. We'll make sure he pays, Evelyn. We'll make sure he never hurts anyone else ever again. We work tirelessly, building our case against Asher. We reach out to his colleagues, his patients, anyone who might have information about his unethical behavior. And with each new piece of evidence, each new testimony, our case grows stronger. Finally, the day of reckoning arrives. We stand before the medical board, our evidence laid out in damning detail. Asher sits across from us, his face pale and drawn, his eyes filled with fear. Dr. Asher Callahan, the board chairman begins, his voice grave. The evidence against you is overwhelming. You have violated the trust of your patients, your colleagues, and your profession. You have engaged in unethical behavior, financial misconduct, and adultery. What do you have to say for yourself? Asher opens his mouth to speak, but no words come out. He looks at me, his eyes pleading for mercy, but I have none to give. You destroyed my life, Asher, I say, my voice cold and hard. You betrayed me, lied to me, and made me question everything I ever believed in. And now you will pay the price for your actions. The board deliberates for only a few minutes before reaching their decision. Dr. Asher Callahan, the chairman says, his voice ringing with finality. It is the decision of this board to revoke your medical license, effective immediately. You are hereby barred from practicing medicine in the state of New York, and your name will be added to the National Registry of Disciplined Physicians. May God have mercy on your soul. Asher crumples in his seat, his face buried in his hands. I feel a rush of triumph, a sense of vindication that leaves me breathless. I have won. I have destroyed the man who destroyed me. As we leave the hearing, Liam takes my hand, his eyes shining with pride. You did it, Evelyn. You brought him to justice. I nod, feeling a sense of peace wash over me. I couldn't have done it without you, Liam. You've been my rock through all of this. He smiles, his hand tightening around mine. I'll always be here for you, Evelyn, no matter what. We walk out into the bright sunlight, ready to face the world together. Natalie is waiting for us, her baby cradled in her arms. She looks at me, her eyes filled with gratitude. "Thank you, Evelyn," she says, her voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for helping me, for giving me a second chance." I nod, feeling a sense of kinship with the woman who was once my enemy. We all deserve a second chance, Natalie, even you. As we walk away, I feel a sense of hope blooming in my chest. The past few months have been a nightmare, a hell I never thought I'd escape. But now, with Asher's downfall and Liam by my side, I know that anything is possible. I have emerged from the darkness, stronger and more powerful than ever before, and I know that whatever the future holds, I will face it with my head held high, ready to take on the world. I gripped the edge of the bathroom counter, knuckles white, staring at the damning video on my phone. My heart pounded as I watched Caleb viciously strike our son Ethan again and again, the sickening sounds of his fists hitting flesh echoing off the tiled walls. Ethan's muffled cries tore through me like shards of glass. How could the man I'd once loved, the father of my children, be capable of such brutality? I barely recognized Caleb in that moment. Gone was the polished, successful businessman who charmed everyone he met with his easy smile and impeccable manners. This raging monster, disfigured by hate, was his true self, the one he worked so hard to conceal behind closed doors. My hands shook as tears blurred my vision. "Mommy?" I spun around to see Ella standing in the doorway, her stuffed bunny dangling from one hand. Her big brown eyes were wide with fear at the commotion. "It's okay, baby." I forced a reassuring smile and scooped her up, hugging her tightly. "Mommy just stubbed her toe really hard." Ella nodded solemnly, still looking worried. I brushed her soft curls back, my heart clenching at how innocent and trusting she was. She and Ethan had no idea the hell their father put us through when the doors closed and his mask slipped away. Over Ella's head, I caught a glimpse of myself in the mirror. My face was pale and drawn from years of Caleb's emotional torture, my eyes haunted. I was trapped in a waking nightmare, suffocating under the weight of his control and abuse. But seeing that horrific video was the breaking point. I couldn't let him keep hurting my babies. Not anymore. I held Ella close, determination replacing my fear. "We're gonna be okay," I whispered fiercely. "I promise." I first met Caleb at a charity gala downtown. He looked like he'd stepped right out of a GQ magazine. Impeccably tailored tuxedo, thick chestnut hair perfectly coiffed, that disarming smile. When our eyes met across the crowded ballroom, I felt an electric pull toward him. "Vivian, right?" His deep voice caressed my name as he approached. "I'm Caleb. I've been looking forward to meeting you." We talked for hours, his intense gaze never leaving my face. He hung on my every word, making me feel fascinating, desirable. I was intoxicated by his attentiveness. Caleb came from old money and worked as a high-powered finance executive. He regaled me with stories of his world travels, his charitable endeavors, his love of art and culture. Here was a man of substance, I decided, not just another wealthy, pretty boy. 2 months of whirlwind romance later, Caleb proposed in a plaza in Venice as gondolas drifted by. I said yes without hesitation, giddy to become Mrs. Caleb Westbrook. The wedding was like a fairy tale, designer dress, hundreds of guests, flower arrangements that cost more than my college tuition. Caleb's eyes shone with pride as I floated down the aisle, his arm looped through my father's. I basked in his adoration. Soon I was pregnant with Ethan, thrilled at the prospect of being a doting stay-at-home mom. Caleb insisted on hiring staff to help, nannies, chefs, personal trainers. He wanted me to embrace a life of pampered luxury, to want for nothing. At first, his controlling tendencies were easy to overlook or excuse. He'd get worked up over small things, a wrinkle in his suit, the nanny showing up 2 minutes late. But I chalked it up to the stress of his high-powered career. Caleb worked himself to the bone, providing for us. He deserved grace. Then Ella arrived, and Caleb's behavior took an even darker turn. "You call this a properly set table?" He sneered at our housekeeper, sweeping the plates and silverware onto the floor with one violent motion. "Do I have to do everything myself?" The poor woman fled in tears as Caleb turned his glare on me. "This is unacceptable, Vivian. I expect a certain standard in this household." I flinched, arms tightening around Ella. I'm sorry, it won't happen again." "You're damn right it won't." His voice was low, dangerous, because if I see one more mistake, you'll regret it." From that day on, I walked on eggshells around Caleb, never knowing what would set off his hair-trigger temper. The slightest perceived infraction could prompt a tirade of verbal abuse. "This pot roast is dry and flavorless. Are you trying to poison us?" He shoved his plate away violently, completely inedible. I stared at my feet, cheeks burning with shame. "I'm sorry, I'll make something else right away. Don't bother." Caleb's lip curled in disgust. "I'll have Maria prepare my meal from now on. At least she can follow basic cooking instructions." Tears pricked my eyes as our housekeeper Maria rushed to make Caleb a new dinner. I felt like a failure as a wife and mother. Caleb scrutinized my every move, from how I dressed and did my hair to my interactions with the children. Ethan and Ella walked on eggshells too, terrified of provoking his wrath. "Sit up straight and stop fidgeting," Caleb barked at Ethan over Sunday brunch. "A Westbrook man has poise and confidence." Ethan froze mid-squirm, back ramrod straight. At 8 years old, he understood the consequences of defying his father. If I dared voice any objections to Caleb's unreasonable demands, I was swiftly shut down. "Who puts food on this table and keeps a roof over your head?" he snarled, towering over me. "You're damn lucky to have me." His words reinforced my utter financial dependence on him. I had no income, no assets in my name. Caleb controlled every penny. I was trapped. Caleb also cut me off from my family and friends, insisting they were a bad influence. I went months, even years, without seeing my sister Dana or parents. My world shrank to the confines of our mansion, a gilded prison. The breaking point came when Caleb flew into a rage over Ella's kindergarten artwork, a simple finger painting of flowers. "She has no talent, no potential," he scoffed, crumpling it into a ball and tossing it at her feet. "I won't allow her to waste time on frivolous pursuits." Ella dissolved into heartbroken sobs, and something inside me finally snapped. I gathered her and Ethan into my arms, shielding them from Caleb's cruelty. "That's enough," I cried, voice shaking with a mixture of fear and defiance. "They're just children, Caleb. Back off and leave them alone." His eyes widened in disbelief, then narrowed to slits of cold fury. Before I could blink, his hand streaked across my face with stinging force. "How dare you talk back to me?" he hissed, grabbing a fistful of my hair. "I'll teach you some respect, you ungrateful." That night, as Caleb slept off his drunken rage, I crept into Ethan and Ella's rooms and gently roused them. "Pack a small bag," very quietly, I whispered urgently. "Just a few clothes and special toys. We're going on a little trip." They blinked at me with wide, trusting eyes, but didn't question my instructions. Ethan helped Ella gather her favorite stuffed animals while I threw some essentials into a duffel bag. My heart hammered in my chest as I grabbed my phone and called Dana for the first time in over a year. She answered on the third ring, voice thick with sleep. "Viv? What's wrong? Are you okay?" "No," I choked out, finally allowing the tears to flow. "It's Caleb. He hits me, Dana. He hits the kids too." There was a sharp intake of breath. "Oh my God, I knew that bastard was trouble. I just knew it." "Where are you?" "Still at home, but I can't stay. Not after tonight." I glanced over at Ethan and Ella, curled together on the couch, clutching their meager belongings. "We need to get out before he wakes up." "Absolutely. You come here right now. I'll leave the front door unlocked. Get in your car and drive straight here, you hear me?" Relief washed over me, knowing my big sister had my back like always. "Thank you. I'll be there as soon as I can." After ending the call, I gathered the kids and crept down the stairs, keeping an eye out for any signs of Caleb stirring. I hurried them out the front door and into the waiting car, throwing their bags into the trunk. Ethan looked up at me with red-rimmed eyes as I started the engine. "Is Daddy going to be mad we're leaving?" My chest tightened, hating that my babies had to know such fear. "No, honey. We're just going to stay with Auntie Dana for a little while, that's all." It was a little white lie to protect them. The truth was, I didn't know if we'd ever be coming back here again. I just knew we couldn't stay a moment longer. As we pulled away, I resisted the urge to look back at the cold, imposing facade of the mansion. It had been a waking nightmare, not a home. I took a deep, steadying breath, focusing on the road ahead. For the first time in years, a glimmer of hope bloomed in my chest. We were getting out. We were going to be okay. The next morning, Caleb awoke to find us gone without a trace. Judging by the string of increasingly unhinged voicemails and texts I received, he was in an apocalyptic rage. His messages swung wildly between vicious threats and pleading for me to come back home so he could make things right. I deleted every one without responding. There was no going back, not this time. I was done with Caleb's mind games and empty promises to change. With Dana's help, I filed an emergency petition for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences and years of physical and emotional abuse. The judge granted a temporary restraining order against Caleb, prohibiting him from going anywhere near me, the kids, or Dana's house. For the first time in nearly a decade, I could finally breathe again without fearing his next outburst. Caleb no longer controlled me or my children. We were free. Dana's cozy two-bedroom felt like a sanctuary after the cavernous emptiness of the mansion. For the first time in years, I could breathe freely without Caleb's looming presence. "You're safe here, Viv," Dana assured me, wrapping me in a fierce hug. "That monster can't get to you anymore." I clung to her, letting the tears flow. "Thank you for taking us in. I don't know what I'd do without you." She held me at arm's length, green eyes blazing with protective fury. "You've been through hell, but it's over now. We'll get through this together, okay?" I managed a shaky nod, drawing strength from her unwavering support. With Dana at my side, I knew I could face whatever came next. The first few nights, I barely slept, body tensed for Caleb's raging arrival at any moment. Every creak of the house settling made me jolt upright in a cold sweat. But gradually, the comfort and security of being with Dana seeped in. Ethan and Ella adapted quickly too, their fear and stress visibly melting away. Soon they were running and playing without worrying about triggering their father's wrath. The sound of their unbridled laughter was music to my ears. About a week after our arrival, Dana and I were having coffee at her kitchen table when my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I frowned but still answered cautiously. "This is she. You ungrateful little bitch." Caleb's voice exploded in my ear, making me flinch. "You think you can just walk out on me? Take my kids?" Dana's head snapped up, eyes narrowing at the venom in his tone. I gripped the phone tighter, mustering my courage. "It's over, Caleb. I've filed for divorce, and there's a restraining order against you. Don't come near us again." He let out a bark of malicious laughter. "A piece of paper won't stop me, Vivian. You're my wife. Those are my children. You'll be crawling back soon enough, begging for forgiveness." "I'll never go back to you." I shot back, anger emboldening me. "Not after what you did to Ethan. I saw the video, you sick fuck." There was a charged pause before he responded, voice low and menacing. "So that's how you want to play it? Fine, but you'll regret turning against me. This isn't over, not by a long shot." The line went dead as he hung up. I stared at the phone, hands trembling. Dana reached across the table, gripping my arm firmly. "Don't let him rattle you, Viv. That's what he wants. We'll fight this asshole and we'll win." I squared my shoulders, feeding off her strength and certainty. For the first time in a long time, I let myself feel hopeful about our future, a future without Caleb's cruelty poisoning every aspect of our lives. No more walking on eggshells. No more fear and intimidation tactics. Just me, my kids, and the freedom to live our lives on our own terms without his abuse holding us back. Caleb could make all the empty threats he wanted. I was done being a victim. From now on, I'd be the one dictating how this story ended. Despite the restraining order, Caleb wasn't deterred from trying to regain control. A few days after his threatening phone call, I was putting the kids down for their afternoon nap when the doorbell rang incessantly. "I'll get it," Dana called out, heading for the front door. I tucked Ella's blanket around her when a booming voice made me freeze. "Where is she? Where's my family?" My blood turned to ice at the unmistakable sound of Caleb's roar. I raced out to the living room to find him shoving his way inside, Dana desperately trying to block his path. "Get out!" she screamed, hands braced against his chest. "You're violating the restraining order." Caleb flung her aside like a rag doll, her small frame crashing into the wall with a sickening thud. She crumpled to the floor, dazed. "Dana." I rushed to her side, but she waved me off. "I'm okay, just get the kids." Ethan and Ella had ventured out, eyes wide with terror at the sight of their raging father. Caleb zeroed in on them, face contorted into an ugly snarl. "You two disobedient brats are coming home with me right now." He lunged for them, and I threw myself in front, arms flung out protectively. Don't you dare touch them! Caleb backhanded me hard across the face, snapping my head to the side. I could taste blood from a split lip. Get out of my way, you little whore! Ethan shrank back against the wall, shaking like a leaf, while Ella began wailing in fear. Caleb made another grab for them, and I kicked him hard in the shin. He grunted in pain, giving me a brief window. Run! I screamed at the kids. Go hide in Dana's bedroom and lock the door. They took off as Caleb recovered, rounding on me with murderous intent. He shoved me down, straddling my body and pinning my arms over my head. His face hovered inches above mine, eyes burning with sick hatred. You're not taking them from me, he spat, spittle hitting my face. I'll kill you before I let that happen, you ungrateful bitch. His hands closed around my throat, squeezing viciously. Black spots danced in my vision as I choked and sputtered, legs kicking helplessly. Just as the world started going dim, a heavy ceramic vase shattered against the back of Caleb's skull with a sickening crunch. He slumped forward, finally releasing me as I gasped for air. Dana stood over us, chest heaving, the broken remains of the vase at her feet. That's for my niece and nephew, you piece of garbage! Caleb groaned, rolling off me and clutching his bloody head. I scrambled away, coughing violently as Dana dialed 911 with shaking hands. Within minutes, the police swarmed in, taking statements and photographs of our injuries. Caleb was cuffed and hauled out to the squad car, still ranting and raving about his rights as a father. In the chaos, I barely registered Ella's piercing screams coming from the bedroom. I rushed in to find her cradling her rag doll, eyes squeezed shut as blood poured from a gash above her eye. She must have been struck by shrapnel from the vase. White-hot rage blazed through me, burning away any lingering fear of Caleb's retaliation. He had just crossed a line from which there could be no return. From that moment on, I knew there would be no more running, no more hiding, only the total and complete obliteration of Caleb's depraved existence as we knew it. He would pay dearly for ever laying a hand on my babies. Whatever it took, I vowed to utterly destroy him. After Caleb's violent attack, Dana and I knew we couldn't just sit back and wait for his next move. We had to take him down first, permanently and ruthlessly. No more playing defense. That deranged psychopath isn't going to stop until he's destroyed us all, Dana said grimly as we pored over the evidence, photos of our injuries, the restraining order violation, everything. We have to hit him from every angle until he has nothing left. I nodded, jaw clenched with grim determination. Any remnants of the meek, cowering woman I'd been under reign of terror were gone. In her place was a merciless force, driven by icy focus and the overwhelming need to protect my children at all costs. You're right. It's time to go scorched earth on that bastard's entire life. We spent weeks meticulously strategizing, burning the midnight oil to amass an airtight case against Caleb. Dana's law enforcement contacts helped dig up records of his abusive behavior going back years, police reports from exes, former employees' harassment claims, the whole sordid history. I also unearthed evidence of shady business dealings and tax evasion at Caleb's firm. The narcissist had been living way beyond his means, funneling money into slush funds and offshore accounts. He thought he was untouchable. This is everything we need to take down the great Caleb Westbrook, Dana said, fanning out the thick dossier with a satisfied smile. The lying, the cheating, the abuse, it's all here in excruciating detail. My lip curled with disgust looking at the paper trail of his depravity. Good, let's burn it all to the ground. We spent weeks making anonymous tips to the IRS, FBI, state financial crimes units, anyone who could bring charges to bear on Caleb's crooked empire. Each agency opened investigations based on our evidence, slowly tightening the vice around his neck. While the wheels of justice began turning, I also filed an explosive civil suit against Caleb, alleging over a decade of physical, emotional, and financial abuse. The lurid claims, backed up by documentation and witness statements, caused a media firestorm. Caleb's lawyers scrambled to contain the fallout as his public image was dragged through the mud. His formerly squeaky clean reputation as a pillar of the community and devoted family man lay in tatters. As the weeks passed, the dominoes continued falling at a dizzying pace. The IRS completed its audit first, hitting Caleb with crushing fines, tax penalties, and frozen assets for his financial crimes. Next came the FBI indictments on fraud, embezzlement, and money laundering charges. With his cash flow dammed up, Caleb was forced to resign in disgrace from his executive position. The company he'd spent decades building quickly moved to cut all ties, fearful of the toxic public relations disaster he'd become. Finally, the restraining order violations and mountain of abuse evidence caught up to him. Caleb was arrested again, this time charged with multiple felonies that could put him behind bars for decades. As I watched the cavalcade of mugshots and shaming headlines, I felt an almost perverse sense of glee. The narcissistic monster who had terrorized me and my children for so long was getting his ultimate comeuppance, a richly deserved downfall of his own making. Caleb had always prided himself on being untouchable, above the rules that governed everyone else. He was about to learn the hard way that no amount of wealth or status could protect him from true justice. The mighty Caleb Westbrook had officially fallen, crashing down in flames. And I had a front-row seat to revel in every agonizing second of it. The day of Caleb's sentencing hearing, Dana and I made sure to get prime seats in the courtroom gallery. I wanted a front-row view of the monster's downfall. Caleb was led in by armed bailiffs, his once impeccable appearance now disheveled, overgrown hair, rumpled suit, haunted eyes. The mighty had fallen so far. I felt a twinge of satisfaction seeing him in handcuffs. The charges against him were lengthy: tax evasion, fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, multiple counts of violating restraining orders, and felony assault and battery against me and the kids. It was a laundry list of the most despicable white-collar and domestic crimes. Caleb's expensive legal team tried to bargain for a lighter sentence, citing his previous charitable work and lack of criminal history. But the judge seemed utterly unmoved by their pleas for leniency. The evidence here paints a clear picture of a violent, unrepentant criminal who believed himself to be above the law, the judge stated sternly. Someone who would brutalize his own wife and children has forfeited any right to walk freely among civilized society. With that, he handed down a sentence of 25 years in federal prison with no possibility of parole. Caleb's eyes widened in disbelief as the reality hit him. I could see the fight finally leaving his body as the bailiffs moved to take him into custody. "Wait!" he cried out, voice tinged with desperation as his gaze found me in the gallery. "Vivian, please. You have to believe I've changed. I'll get help. We can make this work." I stared back at him, unmoved by his pleading words. He was the same pathetic, manipulative con man he'd always been, unable to take true responsibility. "It's over, Caleb," I said, voice flat and devoid of emotion. "You had your chance to be a decent human being, and you failed spectacularly. Now you get to rot away behind bars like the subhuman piece of filth you are." He recoiled as if I'd slapped him, jaw going slack. In that moment, the last remnants of the suave, sophisticated facade finally cracked away to reveal the sniveling coward underneath. As the bailiffs pulled him out, Caleb fixed me with one last poisonous glare over his shoulder. "You'll regret this, Vivian. You're going to pay." I simply smiled and waved farewell with sardonic sweetness. His empty threats held no power over me anymore. In the end, Caleb lost everything: his career, his wealth, his social standing, even his precious freedom. The mighty Westbrook empire he'd built through corruption and abuse had been burnt to the ground, its ashes scattered to the wind. My once formidable tormentor was nothing more than a caged animal now, his vicious bite permanently defanged. I'd won. In the weeks that followed, I savored my newfound liberation like a delicious wine. Dana and I sold off what remained of Caleb's assets to pay off my legal debts and set up college funds for Ethan and Ella. I even took the kids on a celebratory vacation to Hawaii, building sandcastles and splashing in the waves without a care in the world. For the first time in over a decade, I could finally breathe freely, unburdened from the crushing weight of Caleb's cruelty. The constant fear and tension that had plagued every moment had evaporated like a bad dream. My babies were happy and whole once more. I'd sacrificed and plotted, fought tooth and nail to regain control of our lives. In the end, the blood, sweat, and tears were all worth it to ensure that abusive monster could never hurt us again. Caleb's reign of terror over our family was permanently finished. We were free. We had survived his worst and emerged victorious on the other side. As I gazed at Ethan and Ella's bright, beaming faces, I knew our future was limitless. A new chapter was finally beginning, one of peace, healing, and limitless possibilities unfurled before us, and this time I held the pen.
The phone felt wrong in my hands. Not my phone, his phone. The one Brandon thought he'd hidden so carefully beneath his car seat, wrapped in an old t-shirt like some precious artifact. Precious indeed. My thumb hovered over the screen, muscles twitching with the effort not to swipe. To maintain that last thread of trust, that final strand of ignorance that might save our marriage. I'm Emilia, and this moment would divide my life into before and after. The craft store where I worked part-time had closed early, a burst pipe flooding the back room. I'd driven to Brandon's office, thinking I'd surprise him, maybe suggest dinner at that Italian place he loved. His car sat empty in the parking lot, but his laptop bag was on the passenger seat. He always forgot something. That's when I saw it. The edge of fabric, too deliberately placed to be accidental. Now I stood in the empty lot, heart hammering against my ribs, while my sister's name blazed across the screen. Samantha, 10 missed calls, 23 unread messages. The most recent, meet me at our spot. We need to finalize everything. Our spot, their spot. My fingers moved without permission, opening the message thread. The words blurred, then sharpened with cruel clarity. I can't wait to start our life together. Just a few more weeks until we tell her. You're right. Emilia won't understand. She never could match your ambitions. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering against the asphalt. I caught it before it could shatter, though part of me wanted to watch it break, to destroy this evidence of destruction. A car door slammed nearby. I looked up to see Brandon striding across the lot, his tie loosened, sleeves rolled up, in that casual way he thought made him look more approachable. He stopped dead when he saw me. What are you doing here? I held up the phone. Looking for you. Found something else instead. The color drained from his face, leaving him ashen under the fluorescent lights. I can explain. Explain what? How long you've been fucking my sister? Or how you two planned to break it to me? He took a step forward, hands raised like he was approaching a wounded animal. It's not what you think. Samantha and I don't. The word cut through the air between us. Don't you dare say her name to me. We never meant to hurt you. A laugh bubbled up, bitter as bile. No? Then why hide the phone? Why all the secret meetings at your spot? His face hardened, that mask of contrition slipping to reveal something uglier beneath. You wouldn't understand. Samantha gets me, gets what I want from life, while you're content playing with glitter and glue at that pathetic little store. Content. The word tasted like ashes. I took that job so you could chase your precious career dreams. I supported you, believed in you, and I'm grateful, but grateful. I hurled the phone at his chest. He caught it reflexively, clutching it like the betrayal it represented. Show your gratitude by telling me how long. How long have you been planning to leave me for my own sister? Brandon's silence was answer enough. I turned away, my mind already racing ahead, calculating, planning. He called after me, but his words were lost in the roar of blood in my ears. I drove home on autopilot, my hands steady on the wheel even as my world imploded. In our driveway, I sat staring at our house, my house, with its perfectly trimmed lawn and cheerful window boxes, all facade, just like our marriage. My phone buzzed. Jordan, my best friend, checking in as she did most evenings. I let it ring, not ready to voice this betrayal aloud. Not yet. First, I needed to think, to plan. They wanted to destroy my life? Fine. But they'd learned that Karma has a sister too, and her name is Revenge. Sunday dinner at the Carters had always been sacred. Now, watching Brandon pass the mashed potatoes to his mother with that practiced smile, I wondered how many of these dinners he'd sat through while planning to destroy everything. The garden looks lovely, Olivia, I said, cutting my roast into precise squares. Those new roses really brighten up the back fence. Oh, thank you, dear. Samantha actually suggested them. Olivia beamed. Speaking of, she sends her regrets. Something about a client emergency. My fork scraped against the plate. Henry, sitting at the head of the table, shot me a sharp look. He'd been a cop long enough to read tension in a room. Client emergency. The words tasted like poison. Funny how those keep happening on family nights. Brandon's knuckles whitened around his wine glass. What kind of emergency, Brandon? Maybe you know, since you two spend so much time together. The clatter of silverware stopped. Olivia's fork hung suspended between plate and mouth, her eyes darting between us. Henry set down his knife with deliberate care. I don't know what you're implying, Brandon said, his voice steady but his jaw twitching. Samantha and I occasionally consult on business matters. Is that what you call it? I pulled out his second phone, the one I'd kept after our parking lot confrontation, and placed it on the table. Consulting? Olivia gasped. Brandon, what's going on? Nothing, Mom. Amelia's just upset about finding out my husband and sister are planning their future together. You're right, I'm a bit upset about that. The silence that followed was absolute. Henry pushed back from the table, his chair scraping against hardwood. Brandon, explain, now. It's not what you think. Brandon stood, pacing like a caged animal. Samantha understands me. She gets what I'm trying to build, my ambitions. While Amelia's content to waste her life in that craft store, that store paid our bills while you chased promotions. I cut in. While you spent money we didn't have on suits and watches to impress people who didn't care, I was building something. He slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes jump. Something bigger than glitter and glue, and this small-town mentality. Samantha sees that. She believes in me. Brandon Carter. Olivia's voice cracked like a whip. Are you telling me you've been with your sister-in-law? It's complicated, Mom. No, Henry said, his quiet tone more damning than any shout. It's really not. Brandon turned to his father, desperation creeping into his voice. Dad, you understand ambition. You always taught me to reach higher. I taught you about honor. Henry's face had hardened into the expression I imagined he'd used on criminals in his police days. About loyalty, about being a man worth respecting. I am respecting myself, my dreams, my potential. By betraying your wife with her sister, Olivia's hands trembled as she folded her napkin. The girl who sat at this table every Sunday for 8 years, who helped me through my surgery last spring. Brandon's facade cracked. For a moment, I saw uncertainty flicker across his face. Then his phone buzzed, his regular phone this time. He glanced at it, and something in his expression shifted. I need to go. Of course you do, I said. She's calling, isn't she? He didn't answer, just grabbed his jacket and headed for the door. Olivia called after him, but Henry caught her arm. Let him go, Liv. He's made his choice. I stood, my legs surprisingly steady. I should go too. Thank you for dinner. Amelia. Henry's voice stopped me at the threshold. Whatever you're planning, and I know you're planning something, remember who you are. I turned back, meeting his knowing gaze. I'm remembering exactly who I am, and who they are. Outside, I watched Brandon's taillights disappear around the corner, probably heading to their special spot. My phone buzzed with a text from Jordan. Did you do it? Yes, I typed back. Family dinner went exactly as expected. Time for phase 2. Because while Brandon was rushing to meet my sister, he had no idea I'd already met with his company's financial auditor, or that tomorrow, some very interesting documents would land on his boss's desk. Let them have their spot. I had bigger plans. Jordan's office always smelled like coffee and printer ink. Today, those familiar scents mixed with something else. Opportunity. She spread the financial documents across her desk, each page a nail in Brandon's coffin. These aren't just expense reports, she said, tapping a highlighted column. He's been moving company funds through shell accounts for months. Look at these transfers. I leaned closer, scanning the numbers. All to the same design firm, Samantha's firm, which doesn't actually exist. Jordan pulled up a website on her computer. Beautiful website, though, very professional. But dig deeper, and there's nothing. No business license, no tax records, no actual clients besides your husband's company. My stomach clenched. She's been running a scam. Not her first either. Jordan opened another tab. Remember when you mentioned she lived in Seattle for a year? I did some digging. Found 3 different interior design businesses registered under variations of her name, all dissolved after complaints of fraud. The pieces clicked together like a twisted puzzle. The expensive clothes, the constant business trips, the way she always seemed to have money despite never having steady work. She's been playing this game for years. Jordan's journalist instincts were practically vibrating, and Brandon's just her latest mark. My phone buzzed, Henry calling. I ignored it. How much has Brandon given her? Nearly $200,000 over the past 8 months. The number hit me like a physical blow. All those times Brandon had insisted we couldn't afford to fix the roof, or replace my dying car, or start the family we'd once planned. There's more, Jordan said quietly. Look at these dates. I followed her finger across the spreadsheet. The first transfer was dated exactly 1 year ago, 3 months before I'd found the phone, before I knew about their affair. She targeted him, I whispered. This whole thing, she planned it from the start. Emilia. The office door burst open. Samantha stood there, designer handbag, clutched like a shield. Her perfect makeup not quite hiding her panic. What are you doing? She strode toward the desk, reaching for the papers. I snatched them away. Research, Jordan said coolly. Fascinating stuff about interior design fraud. Care to comment? This is family business. Samantha's voice shook slightly. You have no right. Family? I stood, forcing her to step back. Like when you had the right to seduce my husband, or steal his money. I love him, she insisted. You never understood him. What he needs. What he needs, I laughed. The sound sharp enough to make her flinch. Let me guess, expensive gifts, secret accounts, just like David in Seattle, or Michael in Portland. The color drained from her face. How did you? You're not as clever as you think, Sam. Did Brandon know about the others? About how this little game of yours usually ends? She recovered quickly, her lips curving into that familiar manipulative smile. You're just jealous. Brandon chose me because you're a better con artist than wife. I spread the documents between us. These numbers tell a different story. Wonder what Brandon will think when he sees them, or his company's board. You wouldn't dare, but uncertainty flickered in her eyes. It would destroy him. Like you planned to. I stepped closer, dropping my voice. I know about the account in your name. The one where you've been moving his money. Were you going to disappear with it, like you did to the others? Her mask cracked. For a moment, I saw the scared little girl who'd always competed with me, always needed to take what was mine. I can explain everything to Brandon. Too late. I checked my phone. 3 missed calls from Henry now. The company's auditors already have copies. They're probably talking to him right now. As if on cue, her phone rang. Brandon's name flashed on the screen. She stared at it, paralyzed. Better answer that, Jordan said. Sounds important. Samantha backed toward the door, her carefully constructed world crumbling. This isn't over. Actually, I said, watching her retreat, I think it is. After she fled, Jordan touched my arm. You okay? I looked at the documents that would destroy my husband and sister. No, but I will be. My phone buzzed again. Henry. This time, I answered. It's done, he said without preamble. Brandon just confessed everything to the board. They're pressing charges. I closed my eyes, victory tasting both sweet and bitter. Good. Sometimes karma needs a little help. The craft store's bell chimed as Olivia walked in, looking out of place among the yarn displays and glitter aisles. She clutched her purse like armor, her wedding ring catching the fluorescent light as she approached my register. "They've frozen his accounts," she said without preamble. "All of them, even our joint family savings." I continued restocking the ribbon display, each spool clicking into place with mechanical precision. That tends to happen in fraud investigations. "He's my son, Emilia," her voice cracked. "Whatever he's done, he's still my son." The purple ribbon slipped from my fingers, unspooling across the counter. "And Samantha was my sister. Funny how family works." "The police came to our house this morning." Olivia's hands trembled as she tried to help gather the ribbon. "Henry couldn't even look at them. His old colleagues, asking questions about his own son." The weight of it hit me then. How many lives were unraveling because of my revenge? Not just Brandon and Samantha, but Henry's reputation in the department he'd served for 30 years. Olivia's standing in her church groups. The whispers that would follow them all. My phone buzzed. "Jordan. Channel 5 breaking news about tech firm fraud. Running story at 6. "I know what you did," Olivia said quietly. "Henry told me about the evidence, how you gathered it, how you waited." "Did he tell you everything? About the other women Samantha conned? The money Brandon stole?" "Yes," she met my eyes. "And about how you made sure the story would break just before the company's merger announcement. Maximum damage." The ribbon tangled between us like a metaphor. They deserved it. Maybe. Olivia reached across the counter, her fingers cool against my wrist. "But what about you, dear? What's all this doing to you?" The question caught me off guard. I'd been so focused on destroying them, I hadn't noticed the cost to myself. The sleepless nights. The bitter taste that never quite left my mouth. The way I flinched every time my phone rang. "I'm fine." "No, you're not." She gestured around the store. "You're hiding here, surrounding yourself with pretty things while you orchestrate destruction. That's not the Emilia I know. The Emilia you knew died when she found that phone." Did she, or is she just lost? Olivia pulled something from her purse. An old photo. Brandon and me on our wedding day. Samantha standing beside us, all of us laughing at some forgotten joke. Because the girl in this photo, she knew how to love without destroying. How to hurt without burning everything down. My chest tightened. That girl was naive. That girl was strong. Olivia's voice hardened. Stronger than this version, who thinks revenge will fill the holes they left. My phone buzzed again. "Jordan. Brandon trying to reach you. Says it's urgent." "They made their choices," I said, but the words felt hollow. "Yes, they did." Olivia headed for the door, then paused. "But you're making choices too, Emilia. And someday, when all this is over, you'll have to live with them." After she left, I stared at the tangled ribbon, purple as a bruise against the counter's white surface. My phone kept buzzing. Jordan, Henry, numbers I didn't recognize. Probably reporters, now that the story was breaking. I thought of Brandon's face at that family dinner, the moment his mask slipped. Of Samantha in Jordan's office, her carefully constructed world crumbling. Of Henry and Olivia, collateral damage in my quest for justice. The store's bell chimed again. I looked up, expecting another customer, but instead saw my own reflection in the darkening window. A stranger with hard eyes and tight lips, surrounded by crafting supplies meant to create beautiful things. When had I become someone who only knew how to destroy? My phone buzzed one final time. "Brandon, please, I need to tell you something about Samantha, something you don't know." I let it ring, watching the ribbon unspool further across the counter, wondering if there was any way to gather up all these loose ends without getting more tangled in the process. The cafe where Samantha wanted to meet was exactly her style. Overpriced lattes and exposed brick walls. I arrived early, choosing a corner table where I could watch the door. Jordan sat at the counter, pretending to work on her laptop while actually recording everything. Samantha swept in 15 minutes late, designer sunglasses hiding what looked like sleepless nights. "You're looking, well, amazing what a clear conscience does for the complexion." She slid into the seat across from me, removing her glasses. "We need to talk about Brandon." Funny, he said the same thing about you. I pushed my untouched coffee aside, right before the police questioned him about the missing funds. You don't understand what you've done. Her perfectly manicured nails drummed against the table. The company's board, the investigation, you're destroying everything. Like you destroyed my marriage. That marriage was dead long before I came along. She leaned forward, voice dropping. Brandon was suffocating in this town, in that life you built around your little craft store dreams. I just showed him what he could become. A thief. An ambitious man with potential. Her lip curled. But you wouldn't understand that, would you? Always playing it safe. Always so small. The barista dropped a mug somewhere behind us. The crash echoed like my racing heart. Small. I pulled out my phone, showing her the screen. Like these bank transfers, 200,000 is a pretty big number, Sam. Wonder what the police will think about where it all went. Color drained from her face. You wouldn't. Already did. The evidence is with the investigators. I smiled, the expression feeling foreign on my face. But that's not even the interesting part. Want to know what I found when I dug deeper? She stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. This conversation is over. Sit down. The steel in my voice surprised us both. Or I call the detective right now and tell him about Michael Porter and David Chen and all the others. Samantha sank back down, hands trembling slightly as she reached for her water. You see, I continued, Brandon wasn't special. He was just the latest in a long line of men you've conned. But you got sloppy this time, got personal, chose your own sister's husband. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like? I pushed my phone closer, showing her the evidence Jordan had gathered. Because from here, it looks like you've been running this same scam for years. Seduce, manipulate, embezzle, vanish. How many lives have you ruined, Sam? You don't know anything about my life. But her voice wavered. The things I've had to do. To survive? I laughed harshly. Save it for your lawyer. She reached across the table, grabbing my wrist. Amelia, please, if this gets out, I'll lose everything. Like I lost everything? I can make it right. Desperation crept into her tone. Brandon and we can give back the money. We'll leave town, never contact you again. My phone buzzed. Henry calling again. I ignored it. Too late. I stood, gathering my things. The police already have everything. And Brandon? I checked my watch. Should be in custody by now. You bitch. All pretense dropped from her face. You really think you've won? That destroying us will make you feel better? No. I looked down at her. This sister I'd once loved, now a stranger wearing familiar features. But watching you lose everything, that's a start. As I turned to leave, she called after me. He never loved you, you know, not really. You were just convenient. I paused at the door, not turning back. Maybe. But at least I never had to pretend to be someone else to get that love. Outside, Jordan fell into step beside me. Got it all recorded. You okay? I watched Samantha through the window, her head bowed over her phone, probably trying to warn Brandon too late. My phone buzzed again, this time with a news alert about arrests at Brandon's company. No, I said honestly, but I will be. The satisfaction felt hollow, like winning a game where everyone loses. But as police cars screamed past us toward the financial district, I realized there was no turning back now. The dominoes were falling. All I could do was watch. The police station's interview room smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Brandon sat across from me, orange jumpsuit, replacing his usual designer suits, dark circles under his eyes, making him look older than his 34 years. You won, he said flatly. Happy now, I studied the man I'd once loved, searching for any trace of the person I'd married. This isn't about winning. No? He leaned forward, chains rattling. Then why are you here? Come to watch me break? Through the observation window, I could sense Henry watching, his presence a silent weight. He'd pulled strings to arrange this meeting, though I wasn't sure why I'd agreed to come. Samantha's gone, I said. Disappeared right after your arrest. Funny how that works. Something cracked in Brandon's expression. She wouldn't. She did. Along with what was left in your accounts. I slid a bank statement across the table. She cleaned you out 3 hours before the police arrived, almost like she knew they were coming. His hands shook as he read the numbers. This isn't possible. We had plans. A future. Like we had plans. A future. That was different, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Samantha understood me, understood how to use you. I pulled out another document, evidence of Samantha's previous cons, just like she understood Michael Porter and David Chen and all the others. The color drained from his face. What are you talking about? You're perfect, Samantha. She's done this before, multiple times. Seduce, steal, vanish. You weren't special, Brandon, just convenient. He lunged across the table, hands reaching for me. The guard moved fast, but not before I saw something break behind Brandon's eyes. You're lying, he snarled as they restrained him. This is just more of your revenge. Ask your lawyer to look up Michael Porter's case. Or better yet, ask your father. He knew. Tried to warn you months ago. Brandon went still. Dad knew. He was a cop for 30 years. Did you think he wouldn't investigate the woman destroying his son's marriage? The fight drained from him suddenly, leaving him slumped in his chair. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what you threw everything away for. I stood, gathering my things. And because now, you know exactly how it feels to be betrayed by someone you trusted. Emilia, wait. His voice cracked. Please, I need your help. The company's pressing charges. I'm looking at serious time. Should have thought of that before you stole from them. For her, he laughed bitterly. All of it was for her. The money, the lies, betraying you. I did it all because I thought she loved me. Something tight in my chest finally unraveled. That's the difference between us, Brandon. I never needed someone else's love to know my worth. As I turned to leave, he called out one last time. I'm sorry for everything. I know it doesn't matter now, but you're right. I paused at the door. It doesn't. Henry was waiting in the hallway, his face grim. You okay? No. I leaned against the wall, suddenly exhausted. None of this feels like victory. Revenge rarely does. My phone buzzed, Jordan calling. Probably with news about Samantha's trail going cold. Another dead end in this mess I'd created. I destroyed him, I whispered. Destroyed our whole family. And for what? It doesn't fix anything. Henry touched my shoulder. Sometimes things need to break completely before they can heal right. Through the window, I watched Brandon being led away. Shoulders bowed under the weight of his choices. In his defeated posture, I saw my own reflection, both of us trapped in cycles of destruction we'd created. Come on, Henry said gently. Olivia's waiting. Family dinner tonight. Family? I laughed hollowly. What's left of it? More than you think. He guided me toward the exit. And maybe that's the real victory here. Finding out what remains after everything burns down. Outside, rain fell softly, washing away another layer of who I used to be. I wondered if, somewhere in all this wreckage, I could find pieces worth salvaging, of myself, of family, of hope. But first, I had to face what I'd become in pursuit of justice. Jordan burst into my craft store, face flushed with urgency. She's back. Samantha's at your house. My scissors clattered against the counter. What? Police tracked her card usage. She came back to clear out the safe in your basement. Jordan grabbed my arm. Henry's already on his way. The drive home was a blur of red lights and racing thoughts. My house came into view. Our house, where Brandon and I had once planned a future. Samantha's sleek car sat in the driveway, looking exactly like the expensive lie it was. I found her in the master bedroom, methodically emptying drawers. She didn't even turn around. Took you long enough, she said, tossing another handful of jewelry into her bag. Though I suppose you've always been slow to catch on. Step away from the safe, Sam. She finally faced me, and I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished exterior, replaced by something harder, desperate. Or what? You'll call the police? They're already coming, aren't they? Why did you come back? Because this was mine first. She gestured around the room. All of it. The life, the status, the future. I was always meant for more than you. So you took everything I had? You had everything I wanted. The words exploded from her. The perfect marriage, the loving family, the simple little life that somehow made you happy. Do you know how infuriating that was, watching my little sister be content with mediocrity? Sirens wailed in the distance. Her eyes darted to the window. They're not just coming for the money, I said quietly. They know about the others, all of them. Something dangerous flickered across her face. You think you've won. That exposing me somehow makes you better. She reached into her bag. I'm not going to prison. The gun looked wrong in her manicured hands. My heart hammered, but my voice remained steady. This isn't you, Sam. You don't know who I am. The weapon shook slightly. You never did. None of you did. I know you're scared. That you've been running so long, you've forgotten how to stop. Shut up! She stepped closer, gun leveled at my chest. You don't get to analyze me, not after what you did. What I did, I laughed, the sound harsh in the tense air. I learned from the best, sister. You taught me how to destroy someone's life. I just turned out to be a better student than you expected. The sirens grew closer, sweat beaded on her forehead. You know what's funny? I took a step forward. I won. Even with the gun, even with everything you've stolen, I still won. Because tomorrow you'll still be running. Still pretending. Still empty. I said, shut up. Her finger tightened on the trigger. The bedroom door burst open. Henry stood there, his service weapon drawn. Drop it, Samantha. She spun toward him, and I moved. The gun clattered across the floor as we both went down. She fought like a cornered animal, all nails and fury. But years of craft store inventory had made me stronger than she expected. I hate you, she sobbed as Henry pulled her away. I hate that you're better than me. I'm not better. I watched as officers cuffed her. I just finally stopped trying to be you. Later, sitting on my front steps with Jordan, I watched them load Samantha into a police car. Henry approached, holding a familiar object. Found this in her bag. He handed me my mother's wedding ring, the one thing of value I'd thought permanently lost. Thought you might want it back. I turned the ring over in my hands, remembering how proud Mom had been to pass it down. How devastated she'd have been to see what her daughters became. What happens now? Jordan asked softly. Through the police car window, I caught Samantha's eye one last time. In her defeated expression, I saw a mirror of my own vengeful path, and suddenly knew what I had to do next. Now, I slipped the ring into my pocket. Now I stopped letting the past define my future. The police car pulled away, taking with it the last pieces of who we used to be. Tomorrow would bring Brandon's sentencing, more family fallout, more wounds to heal. But for now, I sat between my best friend and my father-in-law, watching the sun set on the battlefield of what once was home. The realtor's sold sign lay flat in our front yard, knocked down by last night's storm. I picked it up, brushing off wet leaves before replanting it firmly in the soil. Behind me, the moving truck waited, already loaded with what remained of my old life. Henry appeared at my side, carrying the last box from the garage. Found these in the corner, mostly photo albums. Burned them. Emilia. His voice carried that familiar weight of wisdom. Some memories are worth keeping, even the painful ones. Inside, Olivia wrapped cups and newspaper, her methodical movements masking deeper tremors. The kitchen where we'd shared so many family dinners now echoed with emptiness. Brandon's sentencing is tomorrow, she said, not looking up. 5 years, with possibility of parole. And Samantha, 7, no parole. Henry set the box down. Plus, restitution to her other victims. Jordan breezed in through the back door, carrying coffee for everyone. The story's running tomorrow, front page. Guess I'll be famous, I said dryly. You're already famous at the craft store, Jordan grinned. 3 new classes added since you became owner. That had been unexpected. My boss retiring, offering to sell me the store. Even more unexpected was discovering I had the strength to say yes, to build something from the ashes of destruction. Found it, Olivia called, pulling something from a drawer. My mother's recipe box, its corners worn smooth from years of use. You should have this. I can't. Yes, you can. She pressed it into my hands. Family isn't just about blood, dear. It's about who stays when the storm hits. The box felt heavy with more than just recipes. I opened it, finding a familiar card tucked inside. My wedding invitation, preserved like a pressed flower. I saved it, Olivia said softly, to remind myself that beautiful beginnings don't guarantee beautiful endings. But ugly endings don't erase the beauty that came before. Through the window, I watched the morning sun illuminate my garden. The roses I'd planted after finding Brandon's phone had bloomed, their thorny stems stronger for surviving winter's frost. You never told me, I said to Henry, about warning Brandon about Samantha. He sighed, age lines deepening around his eyes. Would it have changed anything? No, but I wish I'd known I wasn't alone in seeing through her. You were never alone. Jordan squeezed my shoulder. You just needed to remember who you were without them. The moving truck's horn honked. Time to go. We did one final walk through, our footsteps echoing through empty rooms that once held so many dreams. In the master bedroom, I paused at the wall where Brandon and I had marked our height changes over the years. The pencil marks told a story of growth neither of us had noticed happening. Ready? Henry asked from the doorway. I traced the highest mark, dated just weeks before finding the phone. I thought revenge would feel better than this. Revenge is easy, he said. Healing is harder. But worth it, Olivia added, appearing beside him. Outside, I locked the door one last time. The key felt different now, no longer a symbol of what I'd lost, but of what I'd chosen to leave behind. Jordan waited in her car, ready to follow the moving truck to my new place. Henry and Olivia stood by their vehicle, no longer my in-laws, but something more genuine, family by choice rather than law. You know, Olivia said, hugging me goodbye, sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. I thought of Brandon in his cell, of Samantha facing her consequences, of all the carefully constructed lies they'd built and lost. Their choices had shaped my path, but they no longer defined my destination. The morning sun caught my mother's ring, now worn on my right hand, a reminder that legacy is what we choose to carry forward, not what weighs us down. Living well, I echoed, climbing into my car. I can do that. Behind me, the house stood silent, holding its secrets and scars. Ahead, the road stretched toward something new, not a happy ending perhaps, but an honest beginning. And sometimes, that's enough.
Kylie, I'm leaving you. I filed for divorce today. I love someone else. The words hit me like a slap across the face, disorienting me for a moment as I struggled to process what Todd had just said. What? You filed for divorce without telling me? I asked in disbelief, my voice shaking. How could he do this? Todd shrugged nonchalantly. I've moved out, and don't worry about the house, it's all taken care of. You're just not the wife I need anymore. My heart pounded in my chest, my anger and hurt swirling inside me like a raging storm. After 25 years of marriage, he was casually discarding me like yesterday's trash. I opened my mouth to respond, but the words caught in my throat. Todd's expression hardened. Look, I'm not going to argue about this. It's done. I've met someone new, someone who actually understands me. His callous dismissal stung, but it also ignited a fire within me. I wasn't going to let him off that easily. Who is she? I demanded, my voice steadier now. He hesitated for a moment, then sighed. Her name is Emily Reed. She's younger, more ambitious, and she actually supports my dreams. I recoiled as if he had physically struck me. Emily Reed. The name meant nothing to me, but the implication was clear. He had been having an affair behind my back, and now he was throwing away our marriage for this younger woman. Anger coursed through my veins, overriding the initial shock. How long has this been going on? I asked through gritted teeth. Todd shrugged again, his indifference only fueling my fury. A while. Look, I'm not going to stand here and justify myself to you. It's over, Kylie. Accept it and move on." With those words, he turned and walked away, leaving me standing in the middle of our living room, numb with disbelief and rage. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to lash out at the injustice of it all, but I found myself paralyzed, unable to do anything but watch as the life I had known crumbled around me. As the front door slammed shut behind Todd, a single thought crystallized in my mind. I would not let him get away with this. I would find out the truth, and I would make him pay for what he had done to me, to us. The war had just begun. After Todd left, I sank onto the couch, my mind racing. How had I not seen this coming? As the initial shock wore off, memories began to surface. The late nights at the office, the unexplained absences, the distance that had grown between us over the years. Had it all been leading up to this moment? I thought back to my dreams of becoming an architect, how I had put them on hold to start a family with Todd. At the time, it had seemed like the right choice, but now I couldn't help but wonder if I had sacrificed too much. The sound of my phone ringing jolted me out of my thoughts. It was Leslie, my best friend from college. We had drifted apart over the years, but she had always been there for me when I needed her. "Kylie, is everything okay? You sound upset." I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "It's Todd. He filed for divorce. Says he's been having an affair with some younger woman named Emily Reed." There was a pause on the other end of the line. "Oh, Kylie, I'm so sorry. That must be devastating." I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I never saw it coming. How could I have been so blind? "Don't blame yourself," Leslie said firmly. "This is on him, not you. He made the choice to betray your trust and throw away your marriage." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "You're right, and I'm not going to let him get away with it." "What do you mean?" "I'm going to find out everything I can about this Emily Reed, and I'm going to make sure Todd pays for what he's done," I said, my voice hardening with resolve. Leslie hesitated. "Kylie, I understand you're hurting, but revenge isn't going to make you feel better in the long run." "Maybe not," I admitted, "but I can't just sit back and let him walk all over me. I need to do something." There was a pause, and then Leslie sighed. "All right, just be careful, okay? Don't do anything reckless." "I won't," I promised, even though I wasn't entirely sure what I was capable of at that moment. After hanging up with Leslie, I sat for a long time, staring at the wall, replaying the events of the day in my mind. Todd's words echoed in my head, each one a knife twisting in my heart. As the anger and hurt swirled inside me, I made a decision. I was going to find out everything I could about this Emily Reed, and I was going to make sure Todd paid for what he had done to me, to our family. It was time to take action. Over the next few days, I became consumed by the need to uncover the truth about Todd's affair. I scoured his email and bank records, looking for any clues that might lead me to this mysterious Emily Reed. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of searching, I struck gold. A charge for a fancy restaurant downtown, one that Todd and I had never been to. I recognized the name and address immediately. It had to be where he was meeting her. That night, I waited outside the restaurant, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure what I was going to do or say when I saw them together, but I knew I needed to confront them, to see it with my own eyes. Sure enough, just after 8 o'clock, Todd's car pulled up, and he emerged, looking sharp in a suit and tie. A few moments later, a younger woman joined him, her arm linked through his. My stomach twisted into knots as I realized this must be Emily Reed. They disappeared inside the restaurant, and I waited, my anger and hurt simmering just below the surface. After what felt like an eternity, they finally emerged, laughing and holding hands. I steeled myself and stepped out from the shadows. "So this is her, huh? The woman you threw away our marriage for?" Todd froze, his expression shifting from shock to anger in an instant. "Kylie, what the hell are you doing here? I think the better question is, what are you doing with her?" I spat, gesturing towards Emily, who looked utterly bewildered. "Kylie, this isn't what it looks like," Todd began, but I cut him off. "Save it, Todd. I know exactly what this is. You've been having an affair, and now you're leaving me for this girl." Emily's eyes widened, and she looked at Todd in disbelief. "Is that true? You're married?" Todd sighed, pinching the bridge of his nose. "It's complicated, Emily. Kylie and we've been over for a long time. Don't feed her those lies, I snarled. We were fine until you decided to throw it all away for a pretty face. Emily shook her head, her expression a mixture of hurt and anger. You know what? I don't want any part of this. She turned and stormed off, leaving Todd and me alone on the sidewalk. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then Todd rounded on me, his eyes blazing with fury. Are you happy now, Kylie? You've ruined everything as usual. I stepped closer, my hands balled into fists at my sides. Don't you dare try to pin this on me, Todd. You're the one who betrayed our vows, our family. You're the one who threw it all away for a fling with some younger woman. Todd scoffed, shaking his head. You just don't get it, do you? This isn't about Emily, it's about you and me. We've been miserable for years, and you were too blind to see it. His words stung, but I refused to back down. Well, congratulations, Todd. You've made your bed, and now you can lie in it. Alone. With that, I turned and walked away, leaving him standing there on the sidewalk. As I climbed into my car, tears streamed down my face, but I also felt a sense of relief. Relief that I had finally seen the truth, and relief that I had taken the first step towards getting the justice I deserved. The battle lines had been drawn, and I was ready for war. In the aftermath of my confrontation with Todd and Emily, I found myself retreating into a dark place. The sense of betrayal and anger burned like a fire inside me, clouding my thoughts and consuming my every waking moment. It was during this time that Leslie reached out to me again. We hadn't spoken since before my discovery of Todd's affair, and her call was a welcome reprieve from the turmoil that had become my life. Kylie, how are you holding up? She asked, her voice laced with concern. I sighed heavily. Not great, if I'm being honest. I caught Todd with the other woman, and it was ugly. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. That must have been devastating. You have no idea, I replied bitterly. The things he said to me, the way he tried to justify his actions, it was like I didn't even know him anymore. There was a pause on the other end of the line, and then Leslie spoke again, her tone more hesitant this time. Kylie, there's something else I need to tell you. My heart sank. What is it? I recently started seeing someone new. His name is David, and he's been wonderful, but... I felt a knot forming in the pit of my stomach. But what? There have been some red flags, Leslie continued. Little things that remind me of how Todd used to treat you. I'm worried I might be walking into another toxic situation. My blood ran cold. The thought of my best friend going through the same kind of hell I was enduring was unbearable. What kind of red flags? I asked, my voice low and serious. Leslie hesitated, and then she began to recount the little ways in which David's behavior had started to mirror Todd's. The occasional dismissive comment, the subtle attempts at control, the gaslighting when she tried to voice her concerns. As I listened, my anger towards Todd only grew stronger. How dare he treat me, treat us, like that? How dare he try to manipulate and control the people I loved most in this world? Leslie, you need to get out of that relationship, I said firmly. Don't make the same mistakes I did. Don't ignore the warning signs. There was a long pause, and then Leslie spoke again, her voice thick with emotion. You're right, Kylie. I can't let myself be blindsided again, not after everything you've been through. In that moment, I knew what I had to do. Todd had hurt me in the most profound way imaginable, but he wouldn't get away with it, not this time. Leslie, I need your help, I said, my voice steely with determination. I'm going to take Todd down, and I want you by my side. There was no hesitation this time. Whatever you need, Kylie. I'm with you, 100%. As we began to lay out our plans for revenge, a sense of purpose washed over me. Todd had made a grave mistake in underestimating the strength of our friendship, and he was going to pay dearly for it. The tide was turning, and this time, I was the one holding all the cards. With Leslie's help, I began to piece together a clearer picture of Todd's manipulation and deceit. It turned out that his affair with Emily was just the tip of the iceberg. He had been emotionally and financially abusive towards me for years, slowly chipping away at my self-worth and independence. As Leslie recounted her own experiences with David, she realized that he had been exhibiting similar patterns of behavior, ones that she had initially brushed off or rationalized away. But now, with the benefit of hindsight and my perspective, the truth became painfully clear. I can't believe I almost let myself fall into that trap again, Leslie said, her voice trembling with a mixture of anger and relief. If you hadn't been there to open my eyes, Kylie, I don't know where I'd be right now. I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. That's what friends are for. We've got each other's backs, no matter what. A steely determination settled over us as we began to formulate our plan. We knew that taking down Todd wouldn't be easy. He was a master manipulator, and he had a way of twisting the truth to suit his own agenda. But we also knew that we had something he didn't: each other. We need evidence, Leslie said, her brow furrowed in thought. Concrete proof of his misdeeds that he can't talk his way out of. I nodded, already formulating a plan. I'll hire a private investigator to dig into his financial records, his dealings at work, anything that could be used against him. Leslie's eyes lit up. And I can continue to play dumb with David, feed his ego, and make him think he's got me wrapped around his finger. That way, he'll let his guard down and reveal more of his true colors. A slow smile spread across my face. It's perfect. We'll gather all the evidence we need, and then we'll strike when he least expects it. Over the next few weeks, our plan fell into motion. The private investigator uncovered a trail of financial misconduct and shady business dealings that would have been enough to ruin Todd's career and reputation on their own. And Leslie, bless her heart, played the role of the doting, clueless girlfriend to perfection, all the while secretly documenting David's increasingly toxic behavior. As the pieces fell into place, a sense of grim satisfaction washed over me. Todd had always underestimated the bond between Leslie and me, thinking that he could pit us against each other or manipulate us into submission. But he was wrong. Our friendship was stronger than his lies, our determination more powerful than his deception. And soon he would learn that lesson the hard way. As Leslie and I pored over the evidence we had gathered against Todd and David, a sense of grim determination settled over us. We knew that taking them down wouldn't be easy, but we were ready to do whatever it took to see justice served. That's when Megan, my daughter, got involved. "Mom, what's going on?" she asked, eyes wide with concern. "You and Aunt Leslie have been holed up in here for days, and you both look like you're plotting a heist or something." I exchanged a glance with Leslie, silently debating how much to tell her. In the end, I decided that honesty was the best policy. Megan was an adult, and she deserved to know the truth. "Sit down, honey," I said, gesturing to the couch. "There's something we need to tell you." Over the next hour, Leslie and I laid out the entire sordid tale: Todd's affair, his emotional and financial abuse, and our plan to take him down once and for all. Megan listened intently, her expression shifting from shock to anger as she processed the information. "That son of a bitch," she muttered when we finished, her hands clenched into fists. "How could he do that to you, Mom? To all of us?" I reached out and placed a hand on her arm, offering what little comfort I could. "I know, sweetie. Believe me, I know." Megan took a deep breath, her eyes blazing with determination. "Well, count me in. Whatever you need, I'm here to help." A slow smile spread across Leslie's face. "Actually, there might be something you can do for us." It turned out that Megan's position as a high-level executive at a major tech company gave her access to resources that could prove invaluable in our quest for revenge. With her help, we were able to dig even deeper into Todd's financial misdeeds, uncovering a web of fraud and corruption that stretched back years. "This is bigger than we thought," Megan said grimly, scrolling through the damning evidence on her laptop. "If we play our cards right, we could not only ruin his reputation, but also have him facing criminal charges." A sense of vindictive satisfaction washed over me. After everything Todd had put us through, the idea of seeing him face real consequences for his actions was almost too good to be true. Almost. As the three of us put the finishing touches on our plan, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and gratitude, not just for the strength and resilience of my daughter and my best friend, but also for the unwavering bond that had carried us through even the darkest of times. Todd had made a grave mistake in underestimating the power of our love and loyalty, and now he was going to pay the ultimate price. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than any of us expected. Todd had scheduled a meeting at his office, no doubt to discuss some shady business deal or another. Little did he know, we had been tipped off, and we had a surprise waiting for him. As Leslie, Megan, and I made our way into the building, I could feel the adrenaline coursing through my veins. This was it, the moment we had been planning for, the moment when Todd would finally face the consequences of his actions. We reached his office, and I took a deep breath before knocking firmly on the door. "Come in," Todd's voice called out, oblivious to the storm that was about to be unleashed. I pushed open the door, and we filed in one by one. Todd's eyes widened in surprise as he took us in, his gaze lingering on Leslie and Megan. "Kylie, what's going on here?" he demanded, his brow furrowed in confusion. I stepped forward, my hands trembling with a potent mix of nerves and anticipation. "We know, Todd. We know everything." His expression hardened, and he opened his mouth to respond, but I cut him off. "Don't bother denying it. We have proof. Proof of your affair, your emotional abuse, your financial misdeeds. It's all right here." I held up a thick manila envelope, stuffed to the brim with damning evidence. Todd's face paled, and he glanced around the room, his eyes darting from one of us to the next. "This is ridiculous," he sputtered. "You can't just barge in here and make these kinds of accusations." "Oh, but we can," Leslie chimed in, her voice dripping with disdain. "And we have. You see, Todd, you made a big mistake underestimating us. You thought you could play us against each other, manipulate us and control us like you always have." Megan stepped forward, her expression steely. "But you were wrong. We're stronger than your lies, stronger than your deceit, and we're not going to let you get away with it anymore." As if on cue, the door opened again, and a pair of security guards entered, flanked by a man in a crisp suit, no doubt a lawyer or a law enforcement officer. "Todd Parker?" the man said, his voice grave. "You're under arrest for fraud, embezzlement, and a host of other financial crimes." Todd's eyes widened in panic, and he whirled around to face me, his expression a twisted mask of rage and disbelief. You did this? You're ruining my life." I met his gaze unflinchingly, a sense of profound satisfaction settling over me. "No, Todd, you ruined your own life the moment you decided to betray your family and break the law. This is just the consequences catching up to you." As the security guards moved in to apprehend him, Todd struggled and fought, hurling insults and threats at us. But it was too late. The wheels of justice were already in motion. Outside, a crowd had begun to gather, alerted by the commotion and the presence of the authorities. And as Todd was led out in handcuffs, his expensive suit rumpled, and his face contorted in fury, Megan pulled out her phone and began live-streaming the whole thing. Within minutes, the story had gone viral. Todd's misdeeds and downfall laid bare for the world to see. His reputation was in tatters, his career in ruins, all because he had underestimated the power of 3 determined women who refused to be victims any longer. As I watched him being loaded into the back of a police car, a profound sense of closure washed over me. The nightmare was finally over, and justice had been served. And for the first time in a long time, I felt truly free. In the aftermath of Todd's dramatic downfall, life as we knew it changed completely. The criminal charges and financial repercussions left him practically destitute, his once lavish lifestyle reduced to a mere shadow of its former self. As for me, Leslie, and Megan, a profound sense of relief and vindication washed over us. We had taken our power back, refusing to be victims of Todd's manipulation and lies any longer. And in the process, we had forged an unbreakable bond that would carry us through whatever challenges life threw our way. It was during this time that Leslie approached me with an idea, one that would not only help us move forward, but also allow us to reclaim our passions and dreams. "Kylie, do you remember how you always wanted to be an architect?" she asked one day over coffee. I nodded, a wistful smile tugging at my lips. "Of course, but that was a long time ago before." My voice trailed off, the painful memories of sacrificing my ambitions for Todd still raw. Leslie reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Well, why don't you go back to school? It's never too late to chase your dreams." At first, the idea seemed preposterous. I was in my mid-40s, with a lifetime of baggage and responsibilities weighing me down. How could I possibly start over now? But then I remembered the strength and determination that had carried us through our ordeal with Todd. If we could take down a man like that, surely I could find the courage to pursue my long-abandoned passion. "You know what? You're right," I said, a sense of excitement bubbling up within me. I'm going to do it. I'm going to become an architect, just like I always wanted. Leslie's face split into a wide grin, her eyes shining with pride. That's my girl. And you know what? I have an idea that could help us both. It turned out that Leslie had always harbored a love for interior design, a passion that had been stifled by her own toxic relationship with David. Together, we hatched a plan to start our own firm, combining my architectural skills with her eye for design. With Megan's help and support, we navigated the bureaucratic hurdles and secured the necessary licenses and permits. Before we knew it, our dream had become a reality. A thriving business built on the foundation of our unwavering friendship and resilience. As the months passed, our client list grew, and our reputation for excellence spread like wildfire. We poured our hearts and souls into every project, infusing each design with a piece of ourselves. The strength we had found in our darkest moments, the determination to create something beautiful from the ashes of our pain. And through it all, we never lost sight of the lessons we had learned from our ordeal with Todd. We knew the value of loyalty, of trust, and of never underestimating the power of a few committed individuals to change the course of their lives. As for Todd, his fate was sealed, a cautionary tale of what happens when greed and ego consume a person's soul. He faded into obscurity, left to grapple with the consequences of his actions while we soared to new heights, unburdened by his toxic presence. In the end, our story was one of redemption, of finding the courage to chase our dreams and build a life on our own terms. And as I looked around at the incredible women who had become my family, I knew that no matter what challenges lay ahead, we would face them together, stronger, wiser, and infinitely more resilient than before.